Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Ladies and gentlemen, today I have two different things to cover with you, and each of those things have absolutely nothing to do with one another. It's just two stories that I think are very interesting to look at, and the first one especially is a warning that you need to get ready and get everything that you're going to need now. We're going into the winter months here, ladies and gentlemen, and I guess that the GOV has some tricks up their sleeve as far as bringing back that pesky little health crisis that they locked everyone down with here just a couple years ago. Before I start, however, this afternoon at 3 p.m. Alaska time, 7 p.m. Eastern time, I'm going to be doing a live with Grayman over from Grayman Prepping, but it's going to be on his channel, okay? I do believe that I've already put that on my community page to leave the link, but just in case I haven't, go ahead and take a look at the link on a pinned comment for this video. Now, let's get started. 200 ships are stuck in major bottleneck at one of the world's most important trading routes. Now, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the Panama Canal, but the Panama Canal or that area, they're having a very bad drought, and because of the low water levels in that area, there's a lot of ships that have not been able to get through. What does this mean? This, ladies and gentlemen, is what I like to call a leading indicator, meaning that it may be happening there now where ships are being stuck and there's a bottleneck and they're getting through at a very, very low rate compared to normal times, but that only because it's happening there right now doesn't mean that we're going to notice it on the shelves right now. Now, the Panama Canal is used by a lot of countries as a shipping route for the consumer goods that we're all used to getting in the shelves. So what am I saying is that look into the future. Number one, if you see that this is going on now, this may affect what is sitting on the shelves at your supermarket or at your store, whatever it is. So maybe you want to stock up with those essential things that you know you're going to need now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, because especially if you live in the United States and in a lot of other Western nations, a lot of the consumer items, I guess you can say, that we use, they're mostly imported. So get those things that you need now. Now, it says here that worsening drought conditions in Panama have created a major shipping bottleneck at the canal, which has a parking lot of vessels with no end in sight. Lack of water in the area has made it extra difficult for some ships to make it through one of the world's most important trading routes. The Wall Street Journal is reporting as many as 200 vessels are currently waiting to transit, a figure that has been climbing since the canal capped daily transits to 32 last month from an average of 36 under normal conditions. So just think about how long those ships are going to be standing there. There's about 200 or so. They can do 32 a day, but then more ships keep coming in behind those ships that are already waiting there. So this is going to take a little bit of time before it can resolve itself, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hope that that drought conditions there, don't last too long. And to finish it off, ladies and gentlemen, we could have guessed what this is saying here. As usual, climate change fanatics are blaming global warming on the Panama Canal's woes, even though it is a normal El Nino weather pattern across much of Central America that are actually responsible. So this is due to the El Nino weather pattern. It reminds me of here a year or 2 or 3 years ago, they were talking about the fires of the Amazon, that they were burning off trees and stuff like that. And in reality, they weren't. What they were doing is they were burning their fields in order so that they can, I guess, get a form of nutrition from the carbon that's left over after they burn their fields. But they were saying that they were deforesting the Amazon. And it's something that they do there every year. But I guess 2 or 3 years ago, they found it appropriate or politically appropriate to mention it. Just wait until they roll out the next. So listen to what they're saying here. This makes sense what they're saying because we already see it starting to happen. Wait until they roll out the health crisis 2.0. One commentator warned about what comes next. The panic buying will happen. China will shut down again. There will be shortages on everything again. Ladies and gentlemen, this is probably the most important part of this article. It doesn't really have too much to do with the Panama Canal, but it has a lot to do with common sense and what we see starting to happen. So get prepared with everything that you need. I think they will do it, he says. September starts with the face diapers, and then it gets more intense in October, and then start the restrictions. By December, it will be everyone having to stay inside their homes. They will do it again. And ladies and gentlemen, why wouldn't they? It worked so great for them the first time. Think about it. Just get prepared. It's the best thing that you can do, and it's the best way that you can resist. Now, I will definitely be leaving the link to both of these articles. This one here, I believe, is just as important as the first one. Why is that? Because they love to lie to us, ladies and gentlemen. They love to lie to us, all right? So I want you to come back to this article and revisit it and do your own research. Animal versus plant protein, which is better? Some would think that plant protein is much better than animal protein, but this study here begs to differ. New research suggests that these protein sources are not nutritionally equivalent. And just listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. Do your own research, okay? I don't care what you eat, but at least you should eat what you want to eat and have the information that's the right information. And when I bring you these little studies here, they're not studies that are done by YouTubers. They're studies that are done by professionals. This is what they do for a living. And they're looking at the science and only the science, and not the political outcome of what their decisions on what the true science should be. Scientists found that 2-ounce equivalents of animal-based protein foods provide greater essential amino acids, or EAAs, bioavailability than the same quantity of plant-based protein foods. What does bioavailability means? It means how much it absorbs into your body. So this study found that animal proteins, essential amino acids, absorb more into your body and better into your body than plant-based amino acids, right, from proteins. I hope you understand. If you don't, come back and read this. Go to the dictionary and look and see what things mean. That way you can understand it. That's what I had to do. I didn't know what bioavailability meant. But then I went ahead and looked it up and I said, okay, that makes sense. It pretty much means that it absorbs into your body better. Okay? And that it doesn't get cut off by something else. Like, for example, let's say that you're eating a lot of carbohydrates. Well, carbohydrates tend to block a lot of the vitamins that you consume. And that's why we have such a large amount of vitamins that we need on a daily basis. Because a lot of carbohydrates that we eat in the standard American diet block a lot of the vitamins. So we need to consume more in order to get just the minimum that we need. At least that's how I understand it. But do your own research, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, I have to say that I'm not a medical professional. I'm just reading you a study that was conducted by scientists. The study challenges the dietary guidelines for Americans, which suggest that these protein sources are nutritionally equivalent. So the dietary guidelines for Americans, i.e. the DGAs, they say, hey, plant-based protein and animal-based protein, they're both just as good as each other. So if you want to save the planet, let's go ahead and eat the plant-based proteins because it's just as good as the animal-based proteins. And then we don't have to let anyone eat meat anymore. Unless you're a gazillionaire and you can afford that steak whenever you want because they're bringing the prices up so much. I digress. Protein derived from 2-ounce equivalents of animal-based foods offer higher bioavailability of essential amino acids, or EAAs, than the same amount of protein of plant-based sources, ladies and gentlemen, according to scientists at Purdue University, right? Not according to AP, according to scientists at Purdue University. The protein quality of a food or meal is a major factor in determining how the body can use amino acids for muscle and whole body protein building. Now listen to this. The Dietary Guidelines for Americans, the DGAs, puts an emphasis on consuming a variety of protein foods based on ounce equivalent portions with similar nutritional content, i.e., 1 ounce equals 1 ounce of meat, 1 whole egg, 2/4 cups of beans, or a 1/2 ounce of nuts, meaning that they're saying that an ounce of protein equals just the same as an ounce of meat to a 1/2 ounce of nuts. But the bioavailability of the protein from meat, from animal protein, and nuts is not the same. The animal protein is better than the protein from the nuts. I hope that that makes sense, but come and take a look at it for yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. Pretty much what they're saying here in this little orange section that I'm reading is that animal proteins are better, that they provide you with more essential amino acids than plant proteins do. Protein foods differ in their energy and nutrient content, including protein quantity and quality. And then they have a table here that shows you how they differ. Just an example of 2 animal proteins and 2 plant-based proteins. Additionally, there is limited information on how eating 1 ounce equivalents amount of protein foods from different sources as part of a mixed meal impacts the body's availability to digest and use protein. Meaning something like what I was saying before. Is this animal protein that you're eating or this plant-based protein that you're eating, is the essential amino acids in those proteins that's going to be affected by the other foods that you eat. And they do figure that out here in the study. Now listen, ladies and gentlemen, I understand that this kind of a subject can be kind of dry and kind of boring, but the thing is that's what they want us to do. They want us to say, let me get off of this. By all means, click off the video if you like, but please go to the link and look at it for yourselves. All right? Because this is what they want us to do. They want us to stay away from the information that is out there for us to get what we need to know in order to make an informed decision. Should I eat tofu or should I eat eggs? Which is better for me? All right, you can figure that out for yourselves. Maybe you're allergic to eggs. I don't know. But in order for you to be able to make an informed decision, you have to do the legwork. The study overview. 2 crossover randomized controlled trials were performed on 30 otherwise healthy young adults and 25 older adults. Each study participant completed 4 separate 300-minute trials, which each trial separated by a minimum of 3 days. So they went in for a day and they did a 300-minute trial where they ate something and then their vitals or whatever it is that they checked was checked every so many minutes, up to 300 minutes, and then they waited, 3 days, and then they did it again, okay? For however many times they needed to do it. So, or 4 separate, so 4 times. The study investigators were blinded to the order the participants completed their protein foods assignment until all participants finished their testing and the test results were analyzed. So the scientists or investigators, whatever you want to call them, that were actually conducting this experiments, they did not know who was who. They didn't know who was eating what or what kind of protein or what they were eating it with when they were doing this. They didn't find out until after all of the results were in. During trial periods, study participants reported to the clinic to eat a standardized meal with 2 ounce equivalent of either animal-based protein foods, lean pork, scrambled eggs, etc., or plant-based protein foods like black beans or raw sliced almonds. Blood samples were taken at a baseline and at 30, 60, 120, 180, 240, and 300 minutes after eating to determine the essential amino acids bioavailability as well as blood sugar and insulin levels. So this was a pretty much controlled experiment, right, where it was completely blinded, so there's really no way that they can cheat or that somebody can try to put information in there that they wanted to shift one way or the other. Now this, ladies and gentlemen, is something that you can bookmark and you can take out when you have that discussion with your friend who says, no, tofu is better than chicken breast, or tofu is better than a nice, thick, juicy ribeye. And you can tell them, no, not really, it's not. But anyways, let's finish it off. Results at a glance. In line with our hypothesis before starting the study, consuming meals with 2 ounce equivalent of animal-based protein foods resulted in more essential amino acids in the bloodstream compared to meals with 2 ounces equivalent of plant-based protein foods in both young and older adults, separately and combined. So it didn't matter whether you were younger or older, the body synthesized the essential amino acids pretty much the same. Also, there were no differences in EAA bioavailability between young and older adults, he added. This means that animal-based proteins from unprocessed lean pork, pork loin, and scrambled eggs more effectively provided EAAs, essential amino acids, which is linked with the ability of our bodies to build body protein or muscle, notes Dr. Connolly. And he says that this is very important. This is an important consideration, that we can distinguish that animal proteins provide more essential amino acids, because this is an important consideration for muscle and whole body health and physical function across the life course, he suggests. Additional findings of the study include lean pork resulted in greater EAA bioavailability than eggs in young adults or older adults separately or combined. So how about that? Lean pork is better than eggs as far as the bioavailability or the absorption into the body. There are no differences in EAA bioavailability between black beans and almonds. There are no differences in EAA bioavailability between young and older adults. The only difference that they found is that the proteins that came from animals were better than the ones that came from plant-based. Additional research is needed to better understand how animal versus plant-based protein foods may influence muscle and whole body health across the lifespan to promote healthy aging. And I think that's great, ladies and gentlemen. You see, these people that did this study, they're not saying, okay, the science is settled. Nope, the science is settled. If you eat 2 ounces of pork, you're a lot better off than if you eat 2 ounces of almonds. Period. The science is settled. No, they're saying, hey, these were our findings, and our findings concluded that eating lean pork would give you better absorption of essential amino acids than eating a plant-based equivalent, i.e. almonds or black beans. They're saying, yeah, this is what we found, but we need to do more studies. We need to look at this further to make sure that we're coming up with the correct conclusion instead of the conclusion that we favor. All right, we'll leave it at that. I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Remember, we're going to be meeting up at 3 p.m. Alaska time, 7 p.m. Eastern time, over at Gray Man Prepping's channel for a live. It's not really an interview. We're just going to be chit-chatting and hanging out with the crew over there. I will leave the link to that live stream on a pinned comment along with the 2 articles that we just went over today. I really hope that you get something out of these little articles. Like I said, they may seem kind of dry, but think about how important they are. Again, have a great day. God bless every one of you. God bless America. I'm Alaska Prepper. I'm out.